I like to control money. I don't really like to own assets.
That's so interesting. And you know,
Bet you weren't expecting that,
No,
Carson.
I was
Did
not.
I just ruin your whole podcast?
Kris, would you ever rent again?
Sure.
Really?
Yeah.
You're the real estate guy.
Uh-huh.
You like ownership.
No, I like control. It's not the same thing.
Hold on. Really? Because
Yeah.
every advice that you get from anybody ever is like, don't throw rent away. Buy.
See, that is superseded by better advice that says arbitrage your money in the smartest way possible. Like, let's just say for a moment that you had someone, let me give you an example, a real world example. Let's say that my wife and I are looking at a beach house in Florida and it's $10 million and it's absolutely stunning and it's beautiful. And because my finances are complicated, I'm like, okay, I got $10 million in the bank. So I could use it and buy it cash, or I could go to a bank and I could get some leverage, but they're going to want, let's just say, 50% down. So I put $5 million down, or the person's willing to actually just rent me the property for $30,000 a month. What should I do? Well, first of all, if I take $10 million and sink it in the property so that I avoid a $30,000 a month payment, was that smart? I'm telling you right now.
Ramsey would say yes.
No, don't. Take $10 million and let's just say that I put that into a business that has a cash flow of $300,000 a month. Look at the opportunity cost. I could put it into the house to save $30,000 a month, or I could put it into the business that pays me $300,000 a month. Which should I do? I, at the end of the day, just have a hard time skipping out on good arbitrage. And arbitrage means I'm borrowing at this rate and I'm lending at that rate and I get to make the difference. If I can borrow money at 1% and I can lend it out at 100%, then I stand to gain 99 to 1. I pay 1%, I keep 99%. That's what my crypto looks like, right? And not every investment is going to be wild like that, so let's bring it in. Let's say that I could take $10 million and buy a real estate project, a commercial project or a multifamily project that is paying me 25% of my money. Well, the person that's charging me rent is charging me 4%. So I could either put my $10 million into the beach house to save 4% on interest, or I could pay the 4% on interest, meanwhile have the money lended out at 25% on the project. And let's just say that that project is only paying me a 5% cash on cash. That means that 5% is enough to cover my entire payment, potentially leave something left over, but my money's gonna grow way more aggressively. That's positive arbitrage. So I like to control money. I don't really like to own assets.
So interesting. And
Bet you weren't expecting that,
No,
Carson.
I was
Did
not.
I just ruin your whole podcast?
No, this takes it in a brand new direction because I just have a myriad of questions for you.
No.
You know what everybody does? They play the devil's advocate game where they say, but Kris, what if?
Sure. Let's play the what if game.
What if I get injured? Or what if the business doesn't make $300,000 a month? Wouldn't it be better to just have it paid off and then I can feel good?
Yeah. So you actually brought up the most important thing. We make financial choices that make us feel certain ways, which is why most people are idiots. Financially, they're stupid because they're paying so attention to the security of their psychology that they're missing out on life. They're like playing safe. If you watch Walter Mitty, it's like this really cool show about a guy who was in the mailroom basically doing grunt work, and he never had a chance to go out and travel and see the world and do something amazing or live an adventurous life. And he got to a point where he almost missed it. He almost missed the opportunity to live an amazing life. Most people are boring as boring gets financially. Dude, I was just talking to this guy who's a brand new partner of mine. He joined up forces with me because he doesn't have access to higher ROIs. And I got a chance to do a game plan with him in front of my financial mastermind. I said, well, dude, Kaylin, tell me your finances. And he's like, well, I've got, equity in my home. I've been working on paying off my house. I've got money sitting in my 401k, $140,000. I got money sitting in a Roth IRA, and I've got a little bit of money in a brokerage account. I'm like, great. I can tell who your CPA was, H&R Block. I can tell you who your financial planner is. You don't have one. I can tell that you're listening to your HR manager in society that says you should have a 401k. But did you know that between your likely brokerage account, Roth account, and 401k, your only assets that you're earning a 30-year average around 6%? And by the way, have you done the math at your rate of savings and at your rate of growth to know where you'll be at retirement? Not enough. Most people that are amazing savers will save between 15 and 20% of what they need, which means they're going to want $4 more for every dollar they have in the bank. They're going to want $5 more for every dollar they have in the bank. And that's because they lived an unadventurous life that was safe. And so safety and security ultimately will screw you and stab you in the back every time. Not in the moment because you feel good. I made an extra payment on my mortgage. I'm getting my house paid up. Ooh, go maximize that double dip from the company on the 401k. This is so exciting. They're giving me free money that I can't touch, smell, taste, use, or do anything with.
But it makes you feel good.
But it makes you feel a certain way. So when people are financially uneducated, like the lack of financial education has us do things like 401ks and IRAs that are safe and secure that will screw you in the end. So you get to feel a certain way for 30, 40 years, and then you get to retirement, and then you go bust. You have enough money for 3 or 4 years of life at your normal standard living.
What really happens is people go back to work.
Yeah, they just can't retire. But what they don't know is what they're missing out on. Did you know that you could have been retired and that you could have been toes up on the beach multiple times a year, that you could have traveled to visit your grandkids, or you could have done some cool stuff, or taken that one nephew and started a business, or believed in someone and gave them some money, or donated to that philanthropic? You can't do any of that stuff. That's what safety does. Safety means that you'll know exactly what you're going to have at the end. It's exactly not enough by a ton, and you're ruined by it. So I love risk when it's calculated. I love investing because it's the only way.
So what you're saying is rent, don't rent. That's the wrong question.
No, listen. If I was talking to a brand new couple that had very few assets, then I'm going to say, yes, buy a house. Why? 3% down payment, and you can control an asset. The bank will lend the other 97%. This is crazy. You know how cool it is that a bank will give you hundreds of thousands of dollars and only $10,000 from you? This is really, really, really cool stuff. Why?
That's what do you call it? The extreme upside? What do you?
Well, you have this asymmetric risk.
Asymmetric risk. That's what
meaning low downside, high upside. The worst case scenario is my house goes down to a valuation of 0, and I proportionally lose my 3% down payment, which means if the house literally got demolished and I didn't have insurance on it, I'd lose 10 grand. But houses don't do that. Houses, they have insurance and whatnot. Houses don't go down more than 20 or 30% at a basic entry-level home. Mm-hmm. That would be very, very rare. And by the way, if a home were to go down 30% in value, then you might say, well, my $10,000 investment has now shrunk to $7,000. Woe is me. Woe is me. No. What you're looking at instead is the fact that you've leveraged the bank on the other 97%. And since real estate on its 65-year average goes up 4.6% every single year, you're putting out 3% and getting 4.6% on the total loan amount every year over year compounding. It's the best investment you'll ever make. So in that situation, for the young and the restless getting started, that's a safe move. It's a smart move. And that 3% down payment makes it such a no-brainer. But at some point, you're doing financially better in life. And at some point, you have a limited amount of money and you need it invested appropriately. And you might say, "Gall, you know what, man, our credit's been rough. We don't have all the bank history. So to buy our house, we need to go 20% down instead of 3% down. And we're going to use all of our savings so that we can have the dream of a house." Shoot, rent. Take that money and invest it into something real, right?
Okay, so let's put a little bit more context to this conversation around rent. The up-and-coming generation, a lot of them are opting to rent. Yeah. And I know that you understand a little bit more of the whys of that, of why that's happening in America. And then I'm interested to know how you think that's going to impact your investment strategies.
Biggest difference between a millennial and the previous generation or 2 generations prior to the baby boomers. Baby boomers 2 generations ago at their age had 5 times more money set aside and saved up. Millennials just don't value the money. And they also don't value owning stuff. They value mobility and freedom. And you know what? That's great. They're going to live a life where they have that level of flexibility and they'll get to enjoy that during their life. But the Pied Piper is coming. They're going to live longer than the baby boomers by a ton. By the time they're 65 or 70 years old, they're going to look at their financial choices and they're going to have to justify that. And most of them, I think most of them are going to say, "Man, I really missed an opportunity to leverage my time with a little bit of money here and a little bit of money there, or owning this here." Because what is a house? A person's best asset at retirement. 401ks and IRAs, what you save up, the average person will never be greater than the equity in a home. You're going to throw all your extra money into 401k and IRA, and in your 60s, you're going to have 200 grand. But if you own if you own a home for 30 years, trust me, you're going to have more than $200,000 of equity. So it was passive. It required almost nothing from you. And look at what it did. Any millennial that's opting out of home ownership is opting out of, statistically, half of retirement, half their net worth.
So you would recommend someone getting out of college right now, let's say they come into a good job, they don't have a ton of debt, you'd recommend someone getting into a home.
100%. In fact, beyond that, I'd recommend they do what I did, what you did, and what Marianne did, and what others have done, which is, hey, in 2 years, move again and get another 3% down payment on a first-time homebuyer exemption, and then in 2 years, do it again. I did it 3 times.
Yep.
And why was that such a big deal? It's because I could get the bank to put up 97% of the money instead of 80%. You can swing 5, 10 grand. Swinging 50 grand, that takes some planning, and that takes time to save.
What do you think would happen if you went to a bank and told them you needed like a $100,000 loan that you were going to put into some stocks?
Oh my gosh. Like, banks don't lend money on stocks.
Why
and
not?
Well,
don't they? What if they shoot up in value?
So what if they go down in value? So banks have a history with real estate that they've got really great criteria to understand what will happen to real estate with values in time, and they feel very, very comfortable. They're bullish. This is amazing. We live in a country, and most countries around the world are eager to invest in their citizens to have home ownership because they know that it's a stabilizer for their economy. It moves the economy. It also helps people build confidence in their own financial future. It's just smart all around. So banks are built to lend money, not hold real estate, not own real estate, but control it.
Control it.
And I'm just doing what banks are doing, except I don't want 3%.
Well, and if you think about it, Kris, wouldn't you say a home is about the only thing that the average person will buy that goes up in value?
I would say a home
jewelry.
is the largest commodity that you buy that goes up in value.
Yeah.
I remember I had this mentor. He said, "Hey, Kris, so you want to become a millionaire?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Go get some fidget spinners, sell them, make $1 on each fidget spinners." And I'm like, "I'd have to sell 1 million fidget spinners." He's like, "You're right. Car sales. Go pick that career. You could make $1,000 on a car, and if you sell 1,000 cars and make 1,000 on each one, you'll be a millionaire." I'm like, "Well, at least I'd be able to do that in a matter of years, as opposed to never with fidget spinners. I don't know how to get 1 million customers going door to door. It'd take freaking forever." But then he said, "But Kris, you're making my point. That's why I believe in real estate." I said, "Explain." He said, "Real estate is the largest commodity a person will ever own." I said, "Huh?" He said, "Think about it. The average American can buy a home. It's the most expensive thing they'll ever buy. And if you make $100,000 on a home, well, how many homes do you need to buy to get to 1 million? It's not 1,000 cars and it's not 1 million fidget spinners. It's the number 10. You have literally 10 fingers. You can count on your hand how to get to 1 million through real estate." And that really compelled me. I'm like, that makes sense. It's also the reason why I once met this person that sold jets, and they were worth millions of dollars. And I realized something. You could learn how to sell little widgets and make a little money. You could learn how to put the mastery into cars and make more money. You could sell Xerox machines and make a lot more money. You could learn how to do it in jets. And it's hard to get in, and it's hard to develop the clientele, but if you can hack it and figure it out, imagine making hundreds of thousands or 1 million on a jet. How many jets do you need to sell? Not very many.
But how many people are looking to buy a jet?
That's why you got to specialize. You're always going to benefit from your craft. Some people pick lame jobs, like I work in a warehouse. Oh, good. Tell me how that you can personally benefit from that. Well, if I ever own a warehouse, I'll know how to run it. Great. What about fast food? When I make my own food, I understand
how to not make it. Come on.
Systems theory on how to assemble a sandwich, right? I'm like, great. But when you become a real estate investor, what's the benefit that you get? You know how to move the biggest commodity creatively. What about with little and no money? Like one of my mentors, Robert G. Allen, all about how you do it with no money.
Yep.
Dolph DeRoos, commercial real estate. So when you pick your career, you should ask, what is the benefit that I get? For example, let's say you're a dog trainer. Well, what is the side benefit you get from being a dog trainer? If you own a dog, you can train your dog.
You're saying aside from being paid for it.
Yeah, aside from the pay from the job, you're going to get the benefit of the career that you choose. For example, at one point, past life, I became a motivational speaker. You put me on stage and I'll knock them down. Like I'll create crazy life transformation on stage. What's the side benefit of that? That literally I could get invited on all sorts of stages as I have been, and I can do some really dope life-changing work. Or I admired once upon a time that Tony Robbins did this thing called, he's got his interventions, right? You go to Tony Robbins, and if he picks on you, that guy's going to drill into your soul, your psyche for an hour or two and help you have this life-changing experience. I'm like, I want to know how to do that. And I studied all the greats, and I created a system, and I wrote a book about it. I mastered it. Now, anytime I meet someone that is just stuck but wants to move forward, dude, give me 15 minutes, and I know how to change their life. With the willing, I can do that. So I always tell people that master a skill that has either great value to the world or has great value proposition. I like to master things that can pay me thousands of dollars for a transaction instead of things that pay me, nickels and dimes. Mm-hmm. People don't think about that always.
It's interesting. So we know in America right now, getting into a home, depending on where you live, is really, really difficult because of just how the home prices have shot up with COVID and people moving away from the cities into urban, suburban areas. So there's just a lot more people renting. As an owner of hundreds of investment properties, don't you like this influx of renters?
Seeing the trends go from 70% of America owning over the next decade to what they're projecting is 60%, I think is sad.
Yeah.
Whether you own or rent, people need to live in homes anyway. It doesn't really matter to me. It doesn't affect my strategy. But I do want what is best for the people. And they will be better off if they own versus rent. But I'm going to dominate the rental sector for the professional renter out there that says, hey, I want to live in nice, newer neighborhoods, and I have a reason to rent at this time in my life. And great, I'm going to provide them a beautiful house, and I'm going to collect a beautiful rent check, and it's going to work great. By the way, if you're listening to this, what would happen if you mastered the game of rentals? I don't know, 5,000 rentals ago, I had none. I look at where I'm at today, and personally, I am reaping an insane benefit in my wealth and portfolio because I mastered a game that creates great value, providing really nice quality, newer houses for people in the best markets in the country. What a benefit that I get from that. And by the way, if you're listening to this, if you're trying to make a list of the top 10 most valuable things you could develop, this is going to be on your list. If it's not, you should add this to your list. It doesn't mean, by the way, that you become a master of tenants. It means that you become an owner and you've got great property management that do all the work for you. But it is one of the smartest and wealthiest things that you could do with your life. And that's why I have people all over the world that watch my social that reach out to me, and I'll partner with a number of them, and we'll do deals together, and I'll make it turnkey and easy for them.
I love that. So to round out this conversation on owning versus control, what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, ownership is overrated. Ownership is expensive. Think, for example, of being near the lake and getting a boat or a pair of Sea-Doos. Yeah. And it's like, great, so I want to use this boat, and let me ask you, do you want to own it or do you want to have access to it? The ego says, look at me and my toy. I'm not saying that that's wrong. But it comes with upkeep. It comes with repairs. It comes with you got to get the boat there, and then you got to take it back. License, insurance. You got to do all the stuff. So I hope you're getting enough good feelings, as you established in the beginning why people do things, of pride of ownership from being able to tell everyone, this is my boat. For me, dude, I want to go up to the dock, and I want to write someone a check, and then I want to use their boat, and I want to abuse the heck out of it. I want to play. I want to turn it back and say I'm done. And so, for example, if I owned a boat, as by way of example, let's say the payments are $800 a month. How much time do you have to spend on the lake to justify feeling good about that versus, in actuality, I use it 3 times a summer, and I could have literally paid triple rates on renting it versus owning it, but overall it's way cheaper than the ownership experience. My wife and I used to just go and buy own stuff. And I remember there was this moment my wife really wanted this trailer. Really, really nice high-end trailer. Camping trailer. It's like 43-footer, totally outfitted, really nice. And we used it 4 times.
How long did you own it, Kris?
2 years. And then when we sold it, we lost a lot of money. And yeah, I learned something. I learned that it would have been way cheaper for me just to expensively rent someone else's trailer, have the experience, which I've done since, and then otherwise it's like, get rid of the freaking hassle.
How many of the 4 trips were out of obligation because you knew you owned it and you needed to use it to make it worthwhile?
Honestly, not many.
Not many. Okay.
I think I would say the first 2 were probably because we wanted to, and the second 2 were out of guilt. And we learn lessons. So I love owning things, by the way, but only when I genuinely use them and I love them and I know that I'll get value. It's taken me 20 years for me and my wife to get to know each other, meaning we're doing this addition on our home right now.
Yep.
And we're adding like 23,000 square feet to the house. It's really, really big. And part of it is because I'm bringing in all sorts of amenities that my wife and I have proven to know that we enjoy. For example, float spa. We're putting a spa in our house, and I love the float spa. I love the deprivation tank where you're in the dark, lying naked in the salt water with the soft music, and I go to bed and I wake up an hour later and my brain, it's like my mama just gave birth to me and pushed me out the womb, and my brain feels calm and lucid, and it's wearing at the lowest level possible. I love the experience. Do I love driving 30 minutes to and then 30 minutes from to get to the right kind of float spa? No. Dude, racquetball. The time it takes to get there and the time it gets back, I'm just gonna have my own racquetball court. My wife and I swim all year round. We're gonna have a 50-foot indoor pool, right? We're putting the things in our home. Like I'm a crazy gym guy.
Yeah, you have a gym.
I love working out. I love working out. I'm a black belt in Taekwondo. I'm putting in a ring, boxing ring.
Really?
16-footer boxing ring. I'm putting in my CrossFit rig. I'm putting in my free. It's like a 5,000 square foot gym. To anyone else, it's like, what a choice that you're making there, Kris. I'm like, yeah, but you don't know me. You don't know that I spend 2 hours of my day doing that, and there's a way that I want to do that. And no, I don't want to do that in a gym with strangers or with people I don't like, or I'll share my equipment, or I have to like mix my energy with their energy. As pompous as that really just probably sounded right there, the reality is I am designing my life consciously based on all of my habits and all of my choices. And that is a financial representation of time, not money. And while it's a multi-million dollars, probably a $5 million addition onto the house, it really represents a massive savings of time. So I want to control that environment, so I'm going to own that one. I'm getting a private jet right now, but I'm going to lease it out most of the time. And there's some tax reasons for that. There's some financial reasons for that. There's some convenience reasons for that. But at the end of the day, owning that gives me the kind of control that I need, but there's so many other things in life I don't buy. I just pay to access. I pay to control. And so I think it comes down to, do you know how you should spend your time, the best way to spend your time, and how you will spend your time? And when you know yourself, know thyself, Socrates, that's when you can start making your better choices of when to own and when to control.